Hey gang, Joshua Bacarella here with Sportsmen's Direct. We're going to change it up a little bit and do a quick video on live bait rigging techniques. You guys come into the shop all the time, and I take for granted that you know all these different little tricks or different ways to hook different baits onto the hook. And so I just thought I'd take a few minutes here and explain a few of those things that I take for granted when I'm out there. So we'll start out by, we're going to talk a little bit about spikes first of all. And for those that don't know what spikes are, spikes, we refer to them as spikes, call them Eurolarva, I don't know what other names they have for them, but basically they're maggots, okay? These are basically, you know, fly larvae. They're literally maggots. Now they're fed all these different colored foods, I guess, to make them change color. So they come in, you know, once upon a time when I started fishing, they came in white. That was it. You had white spikes. That was all you could get. But now you can get all different kinds of colors: red, yellow, blue, pink, orange, all different variations. And so I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to rig. Now, if you look at these little guys really close, if I can get him to move around, he's probably going to get him to move around in there for sure, because I haven't touched them. But spikes actually have two ends. They've got a blunt end. Let me get one that's more active here, if I can get one more active. They calm down after you grab them. They kind of freak out a little bit and they tighten up. So that guy is moving there. Now, the blunt end is the head, and there's actually two little eyeballs if you look at them real close, believe it or not. And then you've got the pointy end, which is the tail. So they kind of move backwards, just like a nightcrawler will a lot of times, right? Now, cool little thing about spikes, a little, I guess some trivia information is, spikes are one of the cleanest insects. They actually produce ammonia, and that's what allows them to, I guess, go through decaying animal tissue and not get sick, I guess is a way to look at it. They don't pick up any of that bacteria. It all gets killed on skin contact. So enough of the trivia. So what I want to call your attention to is that little end there with the two little eyeballs. That's normally where I hook my spikes. At least that's one of the ways I hook the spikes. Is I will take, and it's got to be a nice sharp jig. This is a little 4mm epoxy tungsten of ours from our heavy metal series. And probably the most common way is to just barely pierce the skin like so. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just kind of pierced right back there lightly through the skin on the eye side of the spike. And you see he's still moving around pretty good. He's squirming. I know the animal rights people are going to freak out right now because I just impaled a living organism on a hook. I'm sorry, but I'm going to catch a fish and hopefully impale something bigger when I drop it down there in the water. Now, so this is hooking one spike on. I almost never ever start out fishing with one spike. I'm going to try not to hook myself here on all these extra hooks. Generally for me, especially on like a 4mm jig like this one I have here, I am usually going to start out with 2, maybe 3 spikes. And for me, I like to mix it up a little bit, and I'll usually put 2 whites and a red on. It's kind of my go-to starting. So I'm going to grab a red one here. And we're going to hook him on basically the same way, just like that Gensworm got hooked on my shirt. So if I hook that little guy on there next, and then we're going to finish him off with a white. Again, that's all on that blunt end, right there on the eyes. That's the first rigging technique I'm going to show you. Now, here's something else you want to think about. And it's kind of like for you guys that are bass fishermen and fish a lot of plastics, you know that the more plastic you have on your bait, you can change the fall rate, right? And those fish will respond differently depending on how fast that bait is falling. The same thing can be the case when you're ice fishing. So the more meat that you add to this bait, you will change the fall rate and you'll change the action of the bait. Even when you're jigging, the more bait that you have on there, you'll actually change the cadence of that bait. You'll change how it swims, you'll change how it falls. You just change it. So, you know, you don't have to settle for 1 spike, 2 spikes, or 3 spikes. You can load this baby up. And sometimes, like if I'm fishing crappies and they really want it falling slow, you can load this thing up with 5 or 6 or even more spikes on there. Now, one thing you do want to be conscious of, and you can check this after you put the bait on and you drop it down in the hole, is give it a couple of quick jigs right in the hole before you drop it down and see how that bait is responding. If that bait is spinning every time you jig your line, you may want to adjust those spikes a little bit just so that that bait doesn't spin so violently. So that's your basic spike rigging technique right there. And so that was the basic way to rig a spike. Now, on those days when the fish are really short striking, and you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You get a little nip, and the fish is not committing. They may come up and they may grab the tail of the spike. They're just going to grab it, and sometimes they'll swim off with it. You know, one of the tricks when they do that, if they grab it and they swim off with it, especially if you're sight fishing and you can see that they don't have the hook in their mouth, if you drop them a little bit of slack, they'll suck it in. That's just a little tidbit. But one of the other ways to get them to commit is to not give them anything to grab. So I'm going to do this with a red spike. And again, you want to have a good sharp hook in order to do this. But instead of just nipping it through the skin on that head end, what we're going to do this time is we're going to impale that spike all the way on. And you definitely got to have a good sharp hook to do this. Otherwise, the spike will just kind of stretch and turn inside out on you. And and it's kind of messy, honestly, but that's kind of the idea. And you can do it with more than 1 spike. So in this case, it's just a little hunk of meat, so he's just kind of impaled on the hook. It's not real doesn't look real tantalizing to us. I know it's just kind of a mush pile of you know, bug meat there. You can do the same thing. I can grab another white one. I can change the color on it, and I can impale a second one on here. Kind of pierce the skin and kind of thread them up on there. And actually, you want to kind of squish them a little bit. You want to get a kind of a mess there. Now, when a fish comes in, if he wants to eat, he's going to have to grab the hook. There's no way around it. He can't taste it. He can't pluck it. He can't pull on the tail. So on the days like a cold front like we got out there right now, and it's just miserable cold out there, that fish is going to be forced to come in and take that hook in. He can't grab these spikes by the tail and pluck them off or swim away with them or anything else. If he's going to grab it, he's going to get the hook. So on a cold front, when the fish are biting really light, that's one of the secrets to getting them to bite. And you can catch a ton of fish on a spike or two like this because they can't pull them off. So it actually in the water, I'm going to gush it up here a little bit. After every fish, it actually gets more and more tantalizing because it gets just kind of fuzzier and fuzzier. And you'll see when we drop it in the water, kind of that fuzziness that I'm talking about. Hey, if you like this video content and you want to get updated as soon as the next video is out there, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon and you'll get notified as soon as the next video is up.